make holes for the buried, cover me in gold. I smell like eucalyptus, I smell like cinnamon. I smell like I'm stealing my life from the hands of the
All right, let's get to our main event. The reason we came here, most likely, at least the reason I came here, was to hear from a fantastic lettering artist and entrepreneur. Her name is Katie Johnson. I'm going to read a little of her bio because it starts with, she's a queso-loving lettering artist living in Austin, Texas. Done, I'm there. Whatever she's doing, I'm there. She co-owns Good Type. It's a community of over 1 million creatives who love design and typography. And she spends much of her time helping those artists with their own businesses because she believes everyone deserves to love their job. She's created art for clients like Amazon Music, Penguin Random House, American Greetings, and Trader Joe's. Ooh, which Trader Joe's? Where can we see?
Oh, it's the greeting cards in Trader Joe's.
Oh, greeting cards. Okay, so greeting cards, there you go. Cool. I thought maybe it was like mural art that we can see in a specific location. That's next. That's next. She also is a former competitive roller skater, a songwriter, and nearly pro-level reality TV watcher. I'm hoping we get to hear more about that. Here to share her thoughts on the intersection of creativity and reflection, please help me welcome Katie Johnson.
Okay, hi. My palms are kind of sweaty, and now I'm regretting wearing my cinnamon deodorant. See, it all ties back together. Thank you to the Creative Mornings team for having me. I did meet Tina, once the creator, at a party, and I kind of blacked out, but I believe I told her a story about when I was in elementary school and we had like a talent show day in my class, and I did an impromptu dance, and you know how when your underwear gets stuck in your pants in the laundry? Well, that had apparently happened to me. On a high kick, my underwear came flying out of my pants. So, and she didn't really know how to respond. I don't really remember how I don't know how you even go about responding to something like that, but I guess I made a good impression. I'm clearly really good at that. And I've literally never told that story to anybody, so she pulled it right out of me. I don't know what happened. But hi, I am Katie Johnson, and I am becoming an imperfectionist on purpose. And I hope that you'll join me today, at least for the next 20 or so-ish minutes. This is some of my work. I create art under the name Katie Made That, and you can find me at Katie Made That on various socials. And here's a glimpse at some of my lettering work, which is most of what I do these days. And I am very into ornamentation and details, and I'm a bit of a maximalist at heart. And I've been doing a lot of greeting cards these days, hence the Trader Joe's and such. So maybe pick up a greeting card, turn it over, and it just might say, Katie Made That. And most of my time these days is spent working as the co-owner of Good Type. Good Type is a community of over 1 million artists and designers who appreciate, you guessed it, good type. How did you know? And most of what I do at Good Type is creating educational content and support for artists and creatives who want to make money and support themselves doing the work that they love. And we believe everybody deserves to love their job. Has anybody seen Inside Out 2? Yeah. Okay, I'm a big Pixar stan here. My husband and I are always the only two non-child-bearing adults that are in the theater every time, but I don't mind a bit. So the premise of this movie, without too many spoilers, is we're looking inside the character Riley's mind, and she's getting into her preteen years, and there are all these kind of roots of thought and belief systems that are being planted and come together to form this glowing, flowery orb of her sense of self. And when anxiety is introduced into the mix, as it is around that time, as we all know, he comes in with all the best intentions and inadvertently mucks things up and plants this idea in her head that she's not enough. And I very much related to this. My therapist actually gave me the homework to go see it, but I already had tickets. So, so yeah, at some point in my childhood, I had this fear or this idea planted in me of I'm not enough. Raise your hand if you've all had that thought. Like, yes, okay, so very common. But my particular way of getting through that was, okay, if I'm not getting internal validation, I need to look for this externally. And I need people to tell me that I'm enough, so I actually believe it in theory. And the way that I found that I could get praise and attention was if I achieved at a very high level, and whenever I did really difficult things and did them well, adults especially would give me a lot of validation for that, because I think those are some of the skills that they are excited to see in youthful folks, because that means you'll probably be successful going later into life. But for me, it became this desire to seek perfection. And I became a perfectionist because of it. And so I was constantly setting this bar at this unachievable level. And when you inevitably see that, oh, I can't meet this standard, I'm not perfect, then my next thought was, okay, well, then I'm not enough. And it became this loop of thought. I see some of y'all nodding out there. I think a lot of us get into this. And then it tornadoed into my adulthood, and I am still kind of cleaning up the wreckage and dismantling this loop of thought. And I just want to go ahead and say that when I say I'm a perfectionist or have been I'm a recovering perfectionist, that's not me trying to give myself a sneaky little compliment, like when you go to a job interview and they're like, tell me your weaknesses, and you're like, oh, I'm just such a perfectionist. That's not what I mean. I think perfectionism masks itself as something that is helpful, and the reality is it's something very harmful. And you'll see a couple of quotes from this book. It is a very helpful book if you are suffering with dealing with perfectionism. It's called How to Be an Imperfectionist by Stephen Guise. And he says if perfectionism were an iceberg, the small visible tip would be the desire for excellence, the thing that's masquerading as helping. But the reality of it is that the submerged 90% is really the fear of failure. And when you're being driven by fear of something, you're probably not going to arrive at the finale and feel fulfillment. You're probably going to feel emptiness until you do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and that's what happened to me. So how does this fit into my story? So I went to school for design at the University of North Texas. I know we have some UNT folks here. Go Eagles! Or whatever we were. I'm not a sports gal. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we're the mean green Eagles. But yeah, so graduated with a degree in communication design, left with a job here in Austin as an art director at a small advertising agency. And on paper, everything was great. I was there for about 3 years, but something inside me was just like, nah, this ain't it, this isn't it. And I was coming home feeling depressed, and I was just like, wow, I guess I've got to make a change. Everything inside me is like, come on, you gotta do something. And I valued my happiness enough to say, okay, I'm going to change this. So I decided to go out on my own and become an entrepreneur, and my plan was to sell products like art prints, and my own greeting cards at first was my plan. And so I did that, and I didn't have training in it. I taught myself, and what I realized very quickly was that my desire for change, for my own happiness, and my perfectionism were very much at odds. Change is all about taking risk and going into new territories, and there's no guarantees. And perfectionism is all about the guise of control and security. It's not actual security, but it's pretending it is. And it's about avoiding risk. So at the same time, I was trying to avoid risk and take a risk at the same time, and my brain was like short-circuiting, essentially. And this is a look at just an excerpt from my 40-page business plan that I made before I put in my 2 weeks notice. And I do think it's very important to have a plan and to think things through, but this, to me, looking back now, I see somebody who was trying to control a situation that ultimately couldn't be controlled. But I put it in a binder and I passed it around to my family at family dinner, and I was like, look, I'm prepared. But it was really more for myself than for anybody else. And turns out you can't be prepared. You can, put some ideas into place and plan for what you think will happen, but then the world's gonna be like, nah, no. So here's me early on at some craft fairs, and yeah, I just realized very quickly there are ups and downs and there are so many variables, and the fact that I couldn't control them was just absolutely driving me crazy. And I think a place that school kind of fails us when it's setting us up to go into the real world, especially into entrepreneurship, is that school teaches us that A efforts bring A results. Like if I work hard on this studying, I'm gonna get an A on the test because I put in the work. Well, life doesn't work that way, turns out. So I was busting my butt and putting in those A efforts, and I didn't always get A results, and my perfectionist brain was like, what is happening? So I had been, this is the hard part of the talk, I had been self-employed for a couple of months, and I was getting married at the same time, which is a great idea to have like these big life events coinciding. And I was like totally fine at my bachelorette party. I only had like 2 drinks. It was very chill. So don't think that that's why what happened later happened. And I went to sleep, and then I woke up in the middle of the night and my arm had fallen asleep. And normally a brain is like, oh, that's a normal thing that happens when you go to sleep. But my brain said, oh, you're 100% dying. That's what's happening. And I just went into this panic that I've never experienced before. Red alerts going in my brain. I got up, went to the bathroom to fill my glass of water, and the next thing I know, it was shattered in the sink, and I was on the floor covered in a cold sweat, and my then fiance came in and was like, what is going on? And my ears were ringing and I couldn't hear and I couldn't think straight. And I was like, I think I passed out. I think we have to go to the ER. So I spent probably until 7 in the morning at the ER. They were running tests trying to figure out what happened, and they eventually discharged me, saying that my potassium was low and maybe that's what happened. And so then the next week was my wedding, and it was a beautiful wedding of my dreams, very small in Banff National Park. And my friends and my family were there, but I was only able to be present maybe 10% of the time. The rest of the time, I still hadn't had time to go to the doctors and figure out what was going on, and I was so hyper aware of my body and every little thing that would happen. I was like, I'm dying right now. And so most of my thoughts in this period were, sadly, where's the nearest hospital? And that's really tough. And so I definitely want to go back to Banff and redo my honeymoon, maybe for an anniversary. But when I came home and was able to go to the doctors, we figured out that I had started having panic attacks, and this was panic disorder. And I didn't know anything about panic attacks. I'd only seen in the movies when they breathe into the bag, and I thought it was a controllable thing, and I like you could just talk somebody out of it. No. If you are in the middle of a panic attack like this, it feels like you are dying any moment, and it is the scariest feeling in the world. And it just showed me whoa, the mind-body connection is crazy. And so I realized, okay, if I want to be happy, I have to break up with perfectionism. This way of thinking and trying to control everything is not aligning with my vision for my future and my life. So I had to do a lot of work, and I'm still doing it. I'm going to therapy, I'm on medication, but some of the reframing I've had to do is just learning to live with uncertainty and failure, because no matter how much you want to control things, that's part of life. And so to do that, I've been practicing, and I've been practicing failing, and I haven't had to try very hard to fail. It's apparently something that just happens to us. Here's a great example. This is me and my now business partner, Alana. At the time, we were just teaming up to create this course called Art Licensing for Letterers. And we were really excited. We made the course, we made these awesome promo materials, and we posted them, and then we realized, oh, yeah, we spelled the name of the course wrong, which, man, that is one way to show you really know what you're talking about, let me tell you. But hey, you know what happened? Next to nothing. We had two nice-ish little people in our comments like, hey, I want to know about licensing, and that's how we found out. And then, so we quickly changed all the promo materials and reposted it, and the course did amazingly well, so well in fact that it led Alana and I to team up and become business partners for real, and we have gone on to do so much awesome stuff together, and this is still like our cornerstone course. So hey, it was okay, and I survived. And Alana has been really, really helpful for me, because she's so good at just getting her ideas and her thoughts into the world without judging them too much. She's really good at being an imperfectionist. And so we call her the messy first draft, and I'm the like polish and the spit shine that comes after. So the sketch on the left is an example of like what she sends me, and she just puts something on paper. It doesn't have to be the very best thing. And I usually take that and run with that. And that's what we do when we collab on designs. That's what we do when we collab in our business. We're writing a book together, and that's exactly our process. So she's just shown me how to not be so judgmental about things, which is very helpful. And this is just a photo to commemorate the time that I flew earlier this year to Rochester, where Alana lives, to film our Skillshare classes together. And we spent weeks prepping for this and making sure everything was going to be perfect. And we got there and we started to film it, and everything broke, every single thing. And I was crawling on ping pong tables and like jerry-rigging things, and I'm not gonna lie, I had a bit of a meltdown, an adult meltdown while I was there, but you know, the classes turned out. Were they perfect? No. Did they do the job? Yes. And guess what happened? Like 2 weeks ago, Skillshare reached out and asked us if we would be in their top teacher program. So, thank you. It's my moment. But all that to say, like, it doesn't have to be perfect, and it still can do the freaking job. Imagine that. I applied for the Adobe Creative Residency at one point. I got far in the process. I didn't get selected, and I was devastated. But guess what happened? Adobe invited me to speak at Adobe Max, and now I work with Adobe all the time. I'm an Adobe Express ambassador. I talked at their Creative Jam last week. I did a stream with them on Wednesday, and now I'm gonna speak at Adobe Max again in Miami. So one door closed and like 6 or 12 doors opened. I also do this project called the Monster Project, and basically I go to kids' classrooms, have them draw monsters. I take those monsters and give them to professional artists from all over the world, and then those artists reimagine the kids' drawings in their own styles, and then I give it back to the kids and I show them how their ideas can grow and get them really excited about their creative potential. And one of the things that happened when, amongst many issues that have come with just the logistics of running a project like this, I was running a Kickstarter and I got a cease and desist letter from some meanie jerk. And I just like saw it and broke down and I was like, this is the end of the project, I can't do it anymore. Somebody sent me a cease and desist, but you know what happened? I found a lawyer who worked in the building that I was working in at the time who was willing to take it on pro bono and totally got it taken care of. It wasn't ever a problem again. Another random thing that happened is I ordered about 1,000 of these books, and when I got them delivered in boxes to my house, I opened them up and all the innards fell right out. We've all been there with a print job and we're like, seriously? But you know what happened? The printer took it back and rebound them, let it sit for a little longer this time, and then brought it back to me and everything was okay. And at the end of the day, what I get out of the Monster Project is not these memories of like moments of mistakes or uncertainties. It's reactions like this. And like this. And like that. And I told you I went to craft fairs in the beginning of my journey. And sometimes I made $0. And this particular time, I was sitting across the aisle from this particular cat shirt, hypnotizing me, and I was enticed to purchase it. So I left this particular craft fair with minus $10. But you know what happened? I got this bad boy, all right, and I wear it at least once a week to sleep, and I feel groovy when I do. And also moments like this happened at craft fairs, moments of connection with people. This is a lovely couple picking out some of my Carl Sagan prints and deciding which ones they would put in their child's nursery, which was just such a great moment and reminds me, okay, this is why I am doing this. So overall, I've learned that holding on to this idea that if you're careful, you won't make mistakes is not reality. That's just giving you a false sense of security. And the only real security comes with just knowing and accepting who you are right now, mistakes and all. Another thing I had to do was reframe who am I doing it for, because I became very performative in selecting the types of things that I would do, and I stopped being able to recognize when it was something I wanted to do versus when it was something I was doing to impress people or get that validation. So Adobe Firefly helped me make this weird image. There's some like strange limbs that this guy has, extraneous limbs. So just ignore that. And also this shelter has is not gonna help him one bit. But I showed my husband and he was just so excited to get started on his art project. But my therapist asked me how am I gonna decide if I'm actually doing something for myself, and I said, I think if I would do it on a deserted island, then that's a good sign that I'm doing it for me. So I try to think about that, and I think also putting the focus on the process of what you're doing and making sure you enjoy that, because perfectionists are all about that end goal of getting that validation, and we just want to get there really fast, and then it's a really empty feeling when we do, versus imperfectionists who focus on the process and the joy of that, and just let the results take care of themselves. So this is why I want to be an imperfectionist. And then finally, I had to move the goalpost, because having the goal be perfection is literally not possible. So I've decided to try and take that off the table and instead change my metrics. And if I'm creating a piece of art, I try to ask myself, is it conveying the message? And if the answer is yes, then maybe I need to stop freaking nudging pixels around, okay? Maybe it's done. Am I enjoying the process, and am I doing it because I want to? So these are all things that I try to remind myself of. Obviously, I'm not perfect at it. It would be weird if I was. And I just want to remind y'all that you'll never bridge the gap between good and bad design by moving something 2 pixels to the left. I am somebody who loves details and I love getting in there, but a lot of times when we're just stuck moving pixels, there is something deeper going on, and maybe we're trying to distract ourselves from something. So I am trying to zoom out, and I encourage you all to zoom out as well and go back to these metrics. Is it conveying the message? Okay, maybe y'all need to chill on the pixels here. It doesn't have to be pixel perfect, okay? So these are just some mantras that I lettered for myself to help me remember them. Prioritize doing over doing well. You don't have to be producing the most amazing thing every time you create, just create. And then accept that we can't control everything and that there are so many variables, and part of life is just riding that wave, baby. And I just want to leave you with this quote that my dad brought up when I was talking to him about my journey with perfectionism. He wrote in this paper for his teacher, mediocrity can be fun. And then in his yearbook, my dad's teacher wrote this: mediocrity is not only fun, but sometimes excellent. And this is my favorite piece of advice a teacher has ever given a student, because usually it's like, push yourself, you can achieve great things, but they forget to tell us how to be just average sometimes, mediocre. And this to me doesn't mean I want you all or myself to go through life just living a mediocre life. This means there are times to push things forward, and there are times to relax and say it is what it is, and finish a project early and go outside and just be a human being. So I encourage you all to try on your imperfectionist hat, maybe try it on for the day, see how it fits, because maybe you'll like it. And here's where you can find me. Thank you.
Katie's gonna stick around to answer questions.
Sorry.
No?
No,
You wanna
yeah,
go?
that's fine.
That's
I forgot.
I mean, this whole shit show has been wonderfully mediocre, so let's just start. Stop now.
I forgot.
No, we're so happy that she'll be here for a few minutes afterwards, but we can do some with the whole group to get the benefit of some answers. Does anyone have a question? Yes?
Question about all of the directions that you can take your talent and which ones you selected and which ones you dropped, because I know you did craft fairs at one point. Now you do courses, you have done other things with large businesses, and it must be overwhelming the amount of things, you could do invitations, you could do anything.
Yeah.
How have you at points dropped ones that you're like, okay, these just aren't for me right now, or kept yourself open to exploring new ones?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know when to drop that thing and
To
pick up the
drop
new
that
one?
thing. We'll always drop that thing.
Oh, is that weird? I didn't mean to make that weird.
For me.
That's a great question. My business partner and I call it throwing spaghetti at the wall. We like to try everything, and we just had a podcast come out. We have a podcast called The Typecast, and we just had Lauren Hom, a great lettering artist, come on it, and she was talking about the 3-bite rule. You never know if you like something or don't like it until you take 3 bites. And so I think that's kind of how I try to test out something new. I do the 3-bite rule, and then I guess my metrics for deciding if it's tasty or not, is if I'm having fun and enjoying it and can see myself doing it long term without getting burnt out or bored. And it doesn't have to be forever, but can I see myself doing it for the next 6 months, year, whatever. And then also part of it in entrepreneurship is what works best for the audience and what people are responding to. So I think it's kind of where those things overlap. What is fun and enjoyable and sustainable, and what is something that other people are getting something out of, if you are monetizing that thing. If not, get those people out of there. Like, they don't need a say, but yeah, so that's kind of my metric for figuring that out.
Any others? Over here. It's okay, he needs his steps. It's okay.
Does this change anything? Oh,
No,
okay.
it's for
Okay.
the future audience.
Cool. Okay, so I have also struggled with panic stuff. So this is an answer I'm very invested in. But okay, so I have definitely been trying to be more imperfect before this talk. And in the pursuit of like trying new things, there have definitely been times where I'm like, okay, I'm focusing on the process, and then I look up and I actually have created like measurably something bad. Like it's like not good, like it's just not. And like that's just, you know, when you're doing a new skill, like, okay, I'm trying to post on social media, which is not my profession. When you look up and see like, okay, I've been so invested, I've actually made something that's not good. I'm growing my skills, and embarrassment is an unfortunate part of that. Like, how do you regulate yourself through that? Like, how do you emotionally kind of like do the acceptance?
Dang. How do you accept when you have actually made
yourself
bad?
through that? Like,
I
how do
mean,
you emotionally kind of like?
I struggle with this, and that's just, I think the only thing that we can do is really practice it, and just practice being bad or being at the start of something. And like, I don't know that there is a secret to it, to a secret to acceptance. I have also asked my therapist this, and she's like, the other day I was feeling anxious about coming here, the irony of it all. And my therapist was like, okay, we can clear this feeling today because I know to acceptance, but I really want to work with you on sitting with the uncomfortable feeling. And I really want you to get used to, and my feeling's not always going to clear, and you're gonna have to get through that because that's life. And that's part of therapy too, is she's like being very realistic with me. Like, so a lot of people think therapy is a route to getting fixed, and it's really a route to get the tools to deal with a thing and to live with a thing. And sometimes it gets better, but you know, it's always going to be there. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but I'm practicing this as well.
Honestly, that helps a lot.
We had a past speaker. I don't interrupt Q&A. We had a past speaker. Let me just.
Yeah.
We had a past speaker.
Oh my God.
Oh geez.
I've never been good at jump rope.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's not a skill we brought you on for. We had a past speaker named Andy Crouch. He's an improv teacher.
Oh.
And so I want to give you this. This is a tool.
Yeah.
It's called the fail bow. So in theater, when you complete something, no matter if it's good or bad, you bow. And so he says, add to that the words, I failed. And so, I failed. So you can do that every time you trip over a line or you make something that looks like shit and you just move on in. But you take acknowledgement from, and I failed.
I
okay,
like that.
Last one. Any others? Okay, whoa, you pick. Oh, Manny says over
Don't
here.
make me
Yes,
pick.
go ahead.
Great talk. I'm curious, if you've been navigating this journey with perfectionism, how often have you been accompanied by its awkward sibling procrastination? And what have you done about that?
Wow, what a good question. Somebody who knows perfectionism, I see. Just a little bit. So the awkward sibling procrastination, a huge side effect of perfectionism is getting paralyzed. Who's experienced that feeling? Yeah, so because you want to control something so much, you end up doing nothing. It's too overwhelming to even think about it because it has to be the best when it comes out of you. Oh man. I have lately been trying to work in smaller sprints and take smaller bites of the, people say elephant, that's really gross. I would never bite an elephant or eat an elephant, but for the purpose of the metaphor, I've been trying to take smaller bites. I went to this, have y'all been to Momentum Monday? Yeah, it's like a co-working thing. Okay, yeah. I just went for the first time, which is why I'm still foggy on the name, but my friend told me about it, and I went the other day, and they do the Pomodoro method, which is like small sprints of work followed by a forced break. I say forced because if left to my own devices, I will work through lunch and ignore all of my body's needs and keep going until I get the perfect thing. But yeah, so you do the Pomodoro method, and my business partner joked that I would like look down and I would have 2 words written on the page, but I actually did really well with it, and it was really good to force myself to have those breaks, and just stepping away and coming back to something has really helped me, I think. My therapist told me to change the mood and the vibe, so I might step away, come back and put on a different song, or put on like a background reality TV show. Y'all lit up when my bio was talking about that. So I think that's kind of the best way I've been working through that. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard.
Okay, favorite reality TV show?
Favorite reality TV show? I think early Vanderpump Rules is just iconic, but I love me some Love Island and some 90 Day Fiancé. Thank you.
All right, let's give it up for Katie.